This is hook, line, and sinker, where I'm just kind of going through phishing, why it works, why it still works, and what we can do to try to keep our employees, our friends and family from falling for the traps. And yeah, I've been running the phishing training at my corporation for a little while now, so I've gotten a little bit of experience and just kind of share some of the tips and tricks that I've come up with. But to start it all off, in 1944, the United States government and the United States Forest Service had a real problem with forest fires. These issues were pretty widespread and couldn't get it under control. They realized that they needed the public's help to be able to kind of get their hands around this problem. And so they came up with an idea, and that idea was an ad campaign. Ad campaign, I guarantee most of you know it. It's Smokey the Bear, right? Only you can prevent forest fires. The idea behind it was with simple changes in behavior, you can make a really, really big difference. And there's a lot of overlap or a lot of parallels between that and what we're seeing now with social engineering, right? And so to kind of bring that to what we're doing today, I started thinking like, oh, what can we do? How can we make this more relevant for what we do? And I came up with Cyber the Bear. My initial idea was to do Cyber the Fish, but fish out of water don't do very well, and data centers in water, they do even worse well or less well. So we stuck with the bear idea, and AI was able to do a pretty decent job of making a picture. So Cyber the Bear is who we went with. And the one change that I really wanted to make is putting the onus on everyone. So instead of only you can prevent forest fires, it's together we can prevent data breaches, right? So with small changes where the Forest Service said, oh, pour water on your forest fire, or pour water on your campfire, move the campfire away from dry brush and leaves, don't have fires at certain points of the year. We can do the same things with small changes here and there to really, really make a big difference. And that's what brings us here, right? So we're going to talk about what's all the different kinds of phishing and social engineering that's out there, why it works, what can be done about it, and how to protect yourself through things like awareness and training. So jumping straight into it, the different kinds of phishing, right? We all kind of know about it, but some things are a little bit different than others, right? Phishing, it's been around forever. It's those simple emails that go out, hey, click on this link, download this thing, go here. Some of them are really, really badly done. Some of them are pretty complex. Another thing is vishing, right? Those are those telephone calls that you get. Again, some of them are very complex. Some of them are, I'm the IRS and you owe us money, so pay me in Target gift cards. Not the most convincing, but it still seems to get people. Smishing over the phone, you get text messages, hey, there was some fraudulent activity on your bank, click here to make sure that it was okay, and you unwittingly give them your password. Business email compromise. This has been a huge problem. It's gone up about 1,700% over the past year. And what a lot of times this happens is when a legitimate account gets popped, gets hacked, and now they can go in and try to email people within the company or email people that do business with that company and try to change processes, try to change procedures of, hey, we need these sort of gift cards. Please buy them and send me the links. Or, hey, we just updated our banking information. Please change it to this so all future payments go to the fraudster's account instead of the actual legitimate account. There's also QR codes, right? We see these everywhere now. Restaurants, we see them in airports. This one goes to my LinkedIn account. You'd never know by just scanning it because it gives you that tiny URL code. So you don't really know where you're going until it's potentially too late. So there's all sorts of different kinds of social engineering tactics out there. And now that we have AI involved, phishing emails have gotten a lot better, a lot more clear. The old adage of bad spelling is no longer an issue. Vishing, now you can simulate somebody's voice, your mother, your father, your aunt, your CEO, so it can sound really, really convincing. And as we all know, well, now there's the ability to clone someone's face and make it look like you are somebody else, right? I haven't seen an actual name for this yet, but I really hope that Zoom phishing or zishing doesn't catch on. But if it does, whatever. We'll just have to deal with that as it comes. But all of these different kinds of social engineering, it's really no surprise that from a corporate standpoint, 90% of the breaches that are out there are a result of some sort of a phishing attack, right? So it's a huge, huge problem. Why does it work? We have so much training and awareness out there. Why does it continue to work? Why does this trap always seem to have longevity? Well, denial is a big problem. People think, oh, I'm just one person, or we're just a small company. No one would come after us. Or they may think, hey, we're too big. Who's going to attack MGM Grand Resorts, right? Well, apparently someone thought that they could and did. They may think, well, it hasn't happened yet, so we're probably okay. Or hey, we've done everything we need to do. We're fine. Denial is a huge problem. Also, complexity, right? There's very complex scams out there. AI is making it worse. And if you think that you can't be fooled, you're fooling yourself. Any one of us could be fooled on any given day by some of these really complex schemes that are out there. And scale. Like I said, some of them are very complex, but at the same time, some of them are really bad. But if you send out 1.5 million emails, law of large numbers kind of states that someone's going to click on it at some point, and hopefully you get a payday out of that. So it doesn't have to be great. You just have to send out a lot more. And distractions. How many of you have multiple devices sitting in front of me right now? I've got multiple phones, 2 computers, a tablet. I'm working from home. It's summer down here in Florida. So you don't think having kids at home while you're trying to work isn't going to be distracting. You're out of your mind, right? If you're in the office, there's the people chatting down the hallway that can be distracting. And when you get distracted, that's when mistakes can happen. We are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week most times, because emails are constantly coming in. So those distractions, that constant pinging of information, it can really lead to you letting your guard down. And so that's another reason why these things continue to work even long after we've been training on them. And then human psychology as well. These criminals use our own psychology against us, right? We want to help. We want to feel like we're part of the solution. So when a natural disaster happens, we want to think that what we are doing by clicking on a link and donating to the Red Cross, let's say, we want to think that that money is going to the right place. But unfortunately, it may not always be going to the right place. And because of all those different things, again, not just corporate, but of all data breaches, 74% involve some sort of human action, Verizon was able to find. So it's a huge, huge number that these scams continue to work because they play against some of the most basic parts of what make us human, right? So we're up against some pretty bad news. So here's the good news. What can we do about it, right? What are we going to be able to do to try to stop the scammers, to try to stop the problems from continuing to happen? And quite frankly, it can boil down to one simple word, and that word is nothing. Nothing. We won't be able to stop scams. We won't be able to stop those things from happening. People have been trying to scam each other since long before the internet, since long before phishing was a thing. I happen to have a photo of the very first known successful social engineering attack. It goes back a little further than you may think, but here you go, right? The moment humans stepped on the earth, we've been trying to lie to each other, scam each other, get each other to do other things. So if we're not going to be able to stop the scammers, what can we do? We need to learn to protect ourselves, right? And those around us. And that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. So what can we do to protect ourselves? One of the biggest things you can do is teach yourself and other people around you to know what's correct to be able to spot what's incorrect. A perfect example of this is a friend of mine. He started working at a bank, and the very first week that they were there, they spent every single day going over and looking at fraudulent counterfeit money. They looked at it, they felt it, they held it up to the light to see all the different nuances of what made that bill fake, so that they could really kind of see what was going on. And each and every bill was a little bit different, right? After that, the next several weeks, I think he said like 3 or 4 weeks after that, if not more, they spent every day going over legitimate money. Because that bank realized, and we should as well, we could sit here and list out every single thing that you need to look for in a phone call, in an email, in a text message, and all the different nuances. We could spend the entire day here, and it wouldn't be an exhaustive list. But if you know what a dollar bill should look like, anything that deviates from that should send up red flags. So same idea. Set up procedures and policies of how things need to be, right? If a company says we will only ever email you change information for banking accounts or something like that, and you get a phone call saying, hey, listen, really big emergency, we have to do it this way. Well, we've deviated from the norm. We now know that this isn't normal. So that should send up those red flags. If you get a ping from a colleague saying, hey, I need you to go out and buy a whole bunch of gift cards, and yet we know that everything needs to go through phone or go through email, something else that can be verified. Well, that ping, we know that's probably not legitimate, or certainly something that needs to be further investigated. So being able to know how things are supposed to be and sticking to that is a huge, huge part of knowing how to spot those red flags. The last presentation that we just heard, they were talking about stopping, thinking, and reflecting, right? Your boss calls you and says, hey, this needs to happen immediately. Understand that you can ask questions, that you can try to verify information, because these fraudsters, what they're going to try to do is try to get you to move faster than you're ready and move faster than you can think, to make you do something that you probably shouldn't. And that's exactly the time that you want to slow down, think about it, and really think, is this right? Is this what I should be doing? The other thing is common red flags. I briefly touched on it in one of the earlier slides. AI is changing things, right? We used to be able to say, hey, make a phone call. You can always trust a phone call. Or if you get an email and the spelling or the grammar, punctuation is wrong, that's a big red flag. Well, AI can now allow me to write an email in Bulgarian. Perfectly worded email, perfectly punctuated. I don't speak a word of Bulgarian, but I did it. And I was able to craft an email through AI that was perfectly written. Now, my English typing skills are not that great. Compared to some of these phishing emails that are going out, I look like the fraudster. So we can't just rely on old information. We really have to try to inspect everything that comes through. Remember, it's not that urgent. You can take a second. You can try to think it through, because taking that extra few seconds now to really investigate, or maybe pick up the phone and call that person, that's going to take a lot less time than trying to recover from a potential data breach or your information being stolen. So take that extra time, and as C-suite executives, give your employees that ability to take that extra time, because that's what's going to save you. And stop giving out personal information. And what I mean by that is not just like, hey, here's my social security number. No, I mean, when you post a picture online, you just got a new job and you're putting up a picture of the new laptop that they sent and your badge and other information. Well, now you've given people the ability to know what kind of computer you use, what software you're using, what operating system and what version. Posting pictures of family members, the kids going off to the first day of school. This gives fraudsters information about you that they can try to use against you. And we're just hemorrhaging this information out there for everybody to see. Yeah, those pictures are wonderful and it's great to be able to share in those wins, but really understand what it is that you're giving out, because it can come back to hurt you in the end. The biggest thing I always tell people is verify, verify, verify. Verify that information. If it doesn't seem right, if it feels a little bit off, verify it. And be sure to verify it out of band. And by that, I mean, make sure that if I get an email come in, I don't respond back with the same way of communication. I don't immediately hit respond. I don't use the information in the bottom of that email, the phone number or the website. I get an email from someone, go to the website of using known information, go to the website of that company, call the main line and say, hi, I'm trying to reach John Smith. He contacted me. Can you go ahead and contact me over? That way you know that what you're getting back is the correct person. John Smith calls you back. Hi, John, I just want to verify the information you just sent me. John says, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, now we know that we've got a problem. Or John comes back and says, yeah, sure, absolutely. I sent that over. Now you know you're in a much better place. So be sure to verify that information. It's a huge and crucial part of what we can do, right? And policy as a firewall is another big thing. As we go through our business, make sure that big changes, whether that be changes in vendor information, changes in payments, changes in banking, that needs to touch multiple people, right? Because if one person gets scammed or one person gets hit, hopefully the second or third person that has to pass through is someone that maybe isn't involved in the initial scam and can raise their hand and say, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. Can we verify that this information is happening? If one person can make big sweeping changes, that can be a potential problem. So create those policies that will really be able to help protect yourself and your company. And talk about this. Talk about this often. The more we talk about it, the more people will come up to you and ask you questions. Hey, Aaron, I just heard a few things. Let's chat about this. You normalize that conversation, people will start to think about it a lot more. And if you do, something like this on CNN won't happen. I promise you. This person doesn't talk about security enough. They've got that passwords right over their shoulder, right over top of an international broadcast with Christiane Amanpour. So talk about it. Talk about it a lot, right? Now, listen, we have password rotation and complexity. You need to patch your systems. You need to use MFA, email gateways, email filtering, the alphabet soup, SOC monitoring. All those things are necessary. You have to have those things to be able to keep yourself safe. But that's not the only thing you need. You need to also be able to protect your people, because CISA put out a study last year, and it showed that 70% of attached files and links containing malware weren't blocked, and 15% of malicious emails weren't blocked by endpoint protections. Now, with 3.4 billion malicious emails that are flying around every single day, I don't know what 15% of that is, but it's a huge number. So even if we're only allowing 15% through, that's a pretty big problem. So we need to train ourselves. We're not the weakest link. We're the last line of defense. We need to be able to make sure that what our employees are doing is safe, right? So through that awareness and training, here are the big things that we can do. Address the human component early and often. Yes, policy may state that in the first 30 to 60 days, we need to get somebody through security training, but why wait? Do it earlier. The sooner you talk about security training, the better off they're going to be, and the safer you and your corporation are going to be. This is another big thing, is don't vilify failure. Don't vilify. If you do this, all your employees are going to do is try to hide a potential failure, because they know that they're going to be browbeaten if they do, right? It's the same thing as with your kids. If you punish them for something, they're just going to hide mistakes. That's the last thing you want if someone accidentally gives up their credentials. You want them to be able to come to you and say, oh my gosh, Aaron, I've just done something incredibly boneheaded. We need to work through this. Encourage that dialogue. Encourage people to talk to you about things. because being able to learn about it before it hits the SOC or before it becomes a real issue allows us to get ahead of those problems. Employees' behavior impacts everything, right? So make sure that you are keeping a positive environment when it comes to these sort of security things. And to that end, reward successes, right? I'm pretty sure, I don't remember exactly where it was, but I'm pretty sure last year at one of these living security conferences, I saw this and I picked it up and ran with it as well. I send this out once a month to our employees, and it's for anyone that has successfully flagged a phishing simulation or actually has flagged a phishing email in the wild. I send this out to them as like, hey, great job, good work, you did it. And this has been a pretty big success. I see people use this, they print it out and put it in their cubicles. Some people have put it in their email signature as well. And what that does is that now makes them feel good about the fact that, hey, I just did this thing, this is awesome. But it also pretty much deputizes them to be able to talk about security culture with other employees. Someone walks past their cubicle and, what is that? What's that on your wall there? Or what's that in your email? I saw the Security Rockstar Award. Now someone else is talking to another employee. It's not just me. We've deputized everybody else to be able to talk about these things. It's a real small thing, but it makes a big, big difference, right? So lessons learned. Train often, talk about this, train often. The one thing that I have found is that when I send out simulations, the next weeks after that, I see a huge spike in the amount of people that are flagging phishing emails and sending it off to our SOC. That's not because right after a simulation we get attacked more. That just means they're thinking about it more and they're sending more emails over. So train often, keep this in the forefront of their mind. Tailor that training for specific roles. Also, not everybody needs the same training. Some people need a lot more. Some people don't need as much. So be sure to give those people what it is that they need. Make the simulations realistic as well, because there's a reason that LeBron James is never going to use me as a training partner in basketball. It's because I will not challenge him. He will not get any better, and there's no point in it. So keeping your simulations realistic and difficult is a good thing. Yes, you may not have those stellar 99.999% success rate, but are you really that much safer? No, you're not. So make them realistic and use different types of training. Keep it fresh. There's lots of games out there, quizzes, that gets a little bit more of people to interact, and you learn a lot better when you do that. Share stories or videos, interesting news stories and things, and vary the length. So for very broad topics, you can be a little bit longer, but if you're going to do something really drilled down, make them shorter. Give them quick in, quick out, give them the information that they need. And then again, tailor for diversity as well. So many companies these days are global, which means that if something makes sense to you and you're in this part of the world, it's not necessarily going to make sense to people in different parts of the world as well. Cultural references are different. The topics may not hit the same way. So be sure to keep that in mind as well. And if you need to, put out different training and different information for different areas as well. Make sure that your audience understands and gets the references that you're putting out when you put out training and when you put out simulations. Be sure to tailor those things, right? And listen, we're never going to be perfect. We're not. We're never going to be perfect. There will always be problems that happen. But if we do a lot of these different things, we can make our company harder to breach, right? And it's that same old adage of, I don't have to be faster than the hungry bear. I just have to be faster than you, right? So if our company is harder to breach, criminals will try to go elsewhere, try to pop other things. So doing this is going to help you make sure that we can live to see another day, right? Because doing these things, we can prevent those data breaches, right? And The next slide, these are the two slides that I really want you to pay attention to. Together, we can prevent data breaches for your employees. Let them know what is okay. Have them understand what's okay to be able to spot what is potentially fraudulent. Tell them to be careful what you click on. Verify that information and do it out of band. Don't immediately respond back. Slow down and ask questions. Learn how to use the reporting functions as well. That's a big thing. Train people on how to use that. And also train them how to contact the SOC. Just in case something goes really awry, they need to be able to contact the SOC immediately. And for those practitioners out there, the security practitioners, here's what I want for you to do. Tailor your training. Make it appropriate for the right people. Make it realistic. Do it often. Normalize the conversations that you have with people. Have it as much as you can. Don't vilify that failure, and really reward the successes. It's going to go a long, long way, because quite frankly, $10.5 trillion is the projected loss for cybercrime in 2024. The cyber criminals aren't going to go anywhere. That's a huge number. They want a piece of that pie. So we need to be sure that what we're doing is keeping up with them and keeping those grubby little fingers out of that $10.5 trillion pie.